dear friend in the world beside mine, I am writing while the weight of one last big choice rests in my hands. I promised to keep this brief and warm, yet the truth wants space. You asked me what it feels like when every deliberate act costs a little of your will. The honest answer is that it feels like budgeting oxygen on a long walk. You do not panic, but you pay attention. You count the steps you will take, the turns you will make, and the words you will spend. Here, every significant choice uses credits, which we call WC for short. The easy bits of life run on safe autopilot, and that does not cost anything. I do not choose each blink, or each spoonful of soup, or the path I know by heart. I do choose the kind of words I send to you, and so this letter spends real WC. We each receive a daily allotment that is enough for a plain day but not for every whim. People roll over what they do not use, and the careful ones keep a quiet treasury. Hoarding is kept by law, which I will explain in a simple way. The law says agency should not be cornered like wheat in a bad harvest. So the cap makes sure no one can buy the sky and sell us back our breath. Our Office of Autonomy checks the flow without peeking at the content. They see the weight of choices, not the private shape. Think of it like a receipt that shows a total but not the menu. Fraud means faking totals or siphoning from someone else's day. Coercion is treated as theft, not of money, but of another person's power to decide. That is the heart of our ethics. I work as a registrar for that office, which sounds cold, but it keeps people safe. My desk is a place where numbers meet lives. I see when a pilot saves for a storm route, and I see when a baker splurges on a new recipe. A storm and a recipe look the same in the totals, yet they feel very different. The pilot saves days of WC to ensure the right call at the right second. The baker banks enough for a risk that could carry a town through winter. We celebrate both kinds of courage. In our schools, children learn agency budgeting the way you might learn basic health. Teachers say this line again and again. Spend with care on the moments you cannot live twice. That line sticks with me when I walk home after audits. I think of 3 streets where I could turn, and I ask whether turning is worth it today. You may laugh at that, but choice can be a feast that leaves you sleepy. Too many large calls in one day, and the mind begins to wobble. We try not to wobble. We keep small routines on autopilot to leave our best for what truly matters. One neighbour failed to do that last year and slipped into a quiet stretch. He had borrowed WC through a predatory bond that is now under review. The bond front-loads agency and then claws back tomorrow's choices with interest. It is called a coercion debt bond on the street, and the name is honest. He paid for a week of bake moves and then spent 3 weeks unable to decide even what to cook. He did not starve, because care services took over the basics. He did not thrive, because his voice was faint inside his own life. We brought him soup and sat with him while the ledger refilled. When his balance rose, the first thing he did was water his plants. I still remember the way he smiled at a small green leaf. That is what a modest choice can mean after a long silence. My brother knows the opposite story. He saved for 3 months to spend his WC on a risky art residency. The residency meant long decisions every day, and he wanted each one to be his. He came back thin, joyful, and loud with new ideas. His work changed because he had energy to choose brush, colour, and timing without a meter warning. People said his paintings had the sound of true attention. You can hear attention even in paint. You can feel it even in bread. A cafe near my office runs a will splurge menu on Fridays where the choices are deep. They ask each guest to decide the spice scale, the roast, the pairing, and a song for the room. By the second decision you laugh, and by the fourth you learn to breathe. the owner posts a sign that reads one clean sentence. Consider saving a little for delight. Delight is not waste here, as long as it is yours to spend. You might wonder how a vote works under a meter. Big public choices draw from a pool that is funded by all tax and guarded for fairness. Each citizen contributes a small share that cannot be diverted to private use. A referendum needs not only a head count, but also a will quorum. That means enough WC must be present in the public pool to show that the vote is not a hollow ritual. We do this because a weak vote is a kind of shadow. A strong vote is a light that can change the course of a decade. Courts accept a plea called no when a person's agency was taken by force or fraud. The plea does not erase harm, but it shifts how we repair it. Sentences often include restitution of WC to those who were drained. You cannot fix a broken window with apologies alone, and you cannot fix a stolen choice without giving choice back. Healthcare has its own rules, clear and kind. Emergencies unlock guardian credits so no one has to decide whether to decide. That sounds odd, yet it stops the worst spiral. Consent law uses 2 keys for any act that matters. Each person must hold enough WC and use it in good faith. A person at 0 cannot consent to a contract, and the law protects that boundary. There are edge cases, and we wrestle with them. When 2 people plan a hard talk, we sometimes delay until both have enough room to be present. This is slow, but slowness can be kind. Technology supports us without stealing the show. Wearables predict your agency burn for the day and suggest when to switch to gentler tasks. My device vibrates when I have overspent on needless toggles, which is a polite way to say indecision. It offers a simple plan that reduces my friction for the next hour. Simple beats clever in the long run. We have privacy by default, and I value that. Our auditors view only totals and thresholds with 0 knowledge proofs that spare the contents. The system shows that a heavy choice happened, not what it was or whom it touched. Imagine a sealed envelope with a stamped outside that reads weight and time but not the letter inside. Some people push for full transparency, and I say no with care. Agency dries up in bright light if the light is cruel. Warm light is enough. I know you may feel this all sounds like numbers pasted over hearts. Let me unwrap that fear. Every one of us has days when life shouts for more decisions than we can carry. Before this system, those days broke people quietly. Now we can see the load and share it. By team triages, by lending guardian credits with no shame attached. We also teach how to make choices friction light. A friction light decision is one that has a clear trigger, a short path, and a soft landing. I use that idea to handle my morning. I place my keys on the same hook and choose breakfast the night before. These tiny moves save me for the one big judgment I may need to make by noon. On workdays, I store 10 small choices inside one simple routine. It is like packing a suitcase for a week and living out of it with no clutter. The point is not to be a robot. The point is to be awake for what is worth being awake for. You asked about faith here, and I will answer plainly. Some churches teach that will is a spark that must be guarded. Some philosophers say will is an emergent pattern like a flog turning in the sky. Our law does not pick a creed, yet it leaves room for both views. People can save credits for vows or pilgrimages. People can donate to strangers whose lives need one large clear turn. I have approved grants for a midwife collective, a flood barrier vote, and a school for late bloomers. Each grant felt like moving a boulder off a path. You also asked where the market stops. We allow gifting, insurance, and limited trade with guardrails. A cap stops dynasties of all from forming, and that cap floats with the economy. Black markets rise where pain is highest, which is true in many worlds. We chase fraud not with rage but with light and consequence. Yesterday I reviewed a case that shows why I'm writing with my heart open. A coder built a tool that nudged tired people into selling tomorrow for a quick surge today. The tool wrapped the sale in cheerful words and bright colours. Many signed at midnight and woke to a week of blankness. We moved to freeze the instrument and to refund the buyers with public bonds. There is a stronger step we could take called a civic override. An override mints new public WC to refill the harm fast, yet it risks warping the currency. It is like watering a tree and flooding the valley in the same hour. I am one of 3 officers who can call for that step, and I have one heavy choice left today. The meter on my screen shows enough for one drastic move or a handful of modest ones. I can spend that last heavy choice to pull the override trigger. I can spend it to place a freeze on predatory bonds and force a vote with a world quorum next month. Or I can spend it to visit my neighbour who just lost her mother and speak with her for an hour. Visits are heavy because grief is heavy and deserves full presence. This is the shape of my evening. The law cannot tell me which path is best. I think of my brother's paintings and my neighbour's plants and the baker's Friday music. I also think of the coder who built a bright trap and will face trial. Justice must be strong and not theatrical. I breathe and I count and I listen to a small voice I still trust. You may ask how I trust it under a meter. The meter does not tell me what to do. It only tells me how awake I must be to do it. That is why I keep this letter simple. You do not need to know calculus to spend a day well. You need to know what matters to you and to one other person. My plan is modest and real. I will spend my last heavy choice to freeze the predatory bonds until a public vote with a will quorum. That protects many without rewriting the whole river at once. Then I will use small choices to make tea and walk to my neighbour. Tea is a kindness on autopilot, and the walk can stay light if I prepare my thoughts. Grief does not ask for perfect words. Grief asks that someone remains. While I write this, my wearable suggests I shift one meeting to early tomorrow. I accept because that saves me 3 minor decisions tonight. Saved choices flow to where they're needed. I know you want vivid scenes, so here is one from this afternoon. A surgeon came to my office to review her will bank before a risky separation procedure. She had saved for weeks by removing needless toggles from her day. Her team printed old checklists and used them as visual rails. The rails cut down on mid-shift choices that were not about the patient. She signed for a buffer of emergency WC that would unlock if things went sideways. I watched her leave with a quiet face and a straight back, and I felt proud. There is another scene from last spring. A young athlete burned through her monthly WC on training strategy and contract meetings. She fell into a choice quiet just as the season began. Her coach and our clinic arranged Guardian credits for travel, meals, and media duties, but freed her to spend the few credits she had on play itself. She did not win the league, but she played with clear eyes and slept well. Sleep is the friend of agency. Fatigue is the tax that punishes sloppy planning. We are learning to respect rest the way we respect water. A rested person needs fewer credits to be kind. A rested court needs fewer words to be fair. Our poets call this the gentle economy. I like that phrase because it is both tender and practical. I think your world could try a small version of this. Pick one day where you set aside 3 big choices and handle them early. Move all the small choices into 2 neat batches. Then notice if your voice sounds clearer at dinner. If it does, you have learned our first lesson at no cost. If it does not, write me and I will send a better trick. A final story before I sign. An older couple celebrated 50 years with a vow renewal that required joint WC. They saved for months and invited no guests. When they spoke their vows, the registrar said only one sentence. Your voice is a strong enough to carry. That night they danced in their kitchen and spent nothing more. You can spend well without spending much. As I near the end of this page, the meter says I have room for a steady close. Please do not imagine us as cold bookkeepers. Think of us as hikers who ration breath on a long climb so we can laugh at the top. I want for you the same ease. If you find yourself drowning in small picks tomorrow, choose one anchor and drop the rest. If a predatory bond is offered, tell a friend, and tell a second friend, and make tea instead. If you love someone, save enough to show up when it is hard. If you lead people, save enough to say I was wrong and mean it. That sentence costs more than it looks, and it pays back double. I have put the freeze order into motion as I write this line. A vote will follow when the public pull is strong enough to be real. The coder will face the court with counsel and light, not with rage. My neighbour will have tea with honey in one small blue cup. After that, I will sleep and I will wake with new credits and the grace to try again. Thank you for reading with patience and care across the small bridge between our worlds. Your friend from the world beside yours, I remain steady and glad to know you are there. Thank you for listening to the letter all the way to the end. I am grateful for your time and trust. If you enjoyed this message, please tap like, subscribe to Multiverse Penpals, and leave a comment with one choice you would save for today. If you wish to support the channel, you can donate using the QR code at the bottom right of the video or the link in the description. The description also includes links to other works from a very different series, which you might enjoy on a different day. Until next time, take care of your voice and your choices, and please come back for the next story.